right, calling to order. Oh, actually, we'll start with a roll call. This is calling to order Historic Landmarks Commission, November 24th, 2021. Start with a roll call.
All right, thank you, commissioners. I'll go ahead and start with Chair Grumbine.
Present.
Vice Chair House.
I am here.
Commissioner Doherty.
You are me.
I'm here.
Commissioner Drury.
Here.
Commissioner Edmonds.
Here.
Commissioner Lundvik.
Here.
Commissioner Mahan.
Present.
Commissioner Manuel is absent, and Commissioner Uli.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Thank you.
All right, sorry, I was looking at that. Okay, thank you very much. So we'll go on to item A, public comment. Any member of the public wishing to address the commission may do so for up to 2 minutes on any subject within our jurisdiction that is not scheduled on this agenda. So if you would like to make public comment on not the one item that we're going to be hearing, please click on the green arrow hand icon and follow the instructions, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. Currently, we do not have any attendees by webinar, so I'll just check with Ms. Tarnowskaya to find out if we have any written general correspondence.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hamilton and commissioners. We received written correspondence from Scott Wentz on behalf of Cars Are Basic and correspondence from Richard Clausen, which was distributed to the commission before this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Still no attendees by webinar. So Mr. Chair, back to you.
All right, thank you. All right, so we will go on to item B, approval of the minutes of the Historic Landmarks Commission meeting November 10th, 2021.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Uli, second by Vice Chair House. Under discussion, any edits, changes?
None from me.
They were perfect and nice and short.
I have none.
All right. Okay, well, seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Let's have a roll call vote.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Doherty.
Yes.
Commissioner Drury.
Yes.
Commissioner Edmonds.
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik.
Yes.
Commissioner Mahan.
Abstain.
Commissioner Uli.
Yes.
Vice Chair House.
Yes.
And Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
All right, we are on to item C, approval of the consent calendar of November 24th, 2021.
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Well, I
Motion
will
by
second.
Uli, second by Vice Chair House. All right, Mr. Hamilton, give us a summary.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, item A for 221 East Islay, the motion was for project design approval and final approval as submitted, with the comments that the project compatibility findings were made, the minor alterations findings were made, and the minor zoning exceptions findings were made. All right, item B, 40 East Anapamu, the Library Plaza donor plaques and engravings. The motion was for review after final was granted as submitted, with the comment that the project substantially conforms to the plans that received final approval. And then item C, 123 West Gutierrez, and Vice Chair House, correct me if I missed anything. The motion was to continue indefinitely to consent with the following comments. Provide more information about the existing on the lot and whether the existing fixtures are to be replaced and whether or not the photometrics reflect the levels as if they were all new fixtures. And should the light fixtures in a horizontal position not aimed. Comment 2, the lighting proposed on the building itself is acceptable as it will be to match the building and it's totally located. And 3, the existing pole lights may remain since the property is not in El Pueblo Viejo, but the new pole lights should be deferential to and compatible with the historic resource.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Any questions from the commission about the consent calendar, or any consent members want to say anything about it?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Mann.
I made on the library, on the plaques for the library, there was a special plaque in front to honoring Michael Tobes. And the applicant had told me that in her opinion, the plaza would be known as the Michael Tobes Plaza. And I complimented on that. I think Michael Tobes was a great philanthropist for Santa Barbara. And I can't think of a better way to recognize him than to have the plaza at our library named after him. And I made that comment. Thank you.
Totally
All
agree.
right, thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner Uli, or Commissioner Mahan and Commissioner Uli, which brings up an interesting question, I guess, and maybe to staff and to Ms. Hernandez if she's on. And just in terms of what maybe make it even less than what it would be known as, what is the process, or is there a way of actually seeing if it can be, named officially? We've got Stork Plaza. Why can't we have Tobes Plaza? Just as a question to staff, what that process would be if we wanted to actually officially dedicate it as that.
Thank you, Commissioner, Mr. Chair. The library actually went to City Council on April 13th and really talked about naming it the Tobes Plaza, and the sign will say Tobes Plaza. There'll be a bigger monument sign that says the library, and then it's at the curve of the planter that goes right along Anapamu that kind of mimics the original Myron Hunt fountain curve. That's where the sign will be in the sandstone engraved. But council approved the signage package first to say we approve, even though it's a city building, because of the donor recognition and all that he had done. So they did that.
Okay, so it can and is going to be officially known as the Tobes Plaza. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure that there wasn't any other thing. But okay,
Yeah.
Wonderful. Anything else on consent discussion? Okay, in that case, let's go to a vote on approving the consent calendar as submitted.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Drury,
Aye.
Commissioner Edmonds,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundy,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahan,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Vice Chair House, Vice Chair House,
I think you have it muted. You have it
I
muted,
was
Vice Chair.
muted, yeah. Got to get that pointer over there. Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Jordan
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We are on to item D, announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items, and appeals. All right. Do we have Mr. Hamilton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of announcements, and I believe Ms. Hernandez does as well. So first, I'd like to announce that we are switching from GoToMeeting to Zoom as our remote meeting platform. That's starting November 29th. So our next HLC meetings will be done over Zoom. And there should be, you should have received an email, I think, about, training, what that's going to look like. So, if you haven't, keep an eye out for that. And we do anticipate, the first couple of hearings to have some bumps and things, but just like we learned GoToMeeting, we'll learn Zoom. So, and there are
Quick question, Mr. Hamilton, along that line.
Sure.
Just knowing that Zoom has a feature of annotation, that those participating in it can actually annotate on the screen, like mark up on the screen some things or point to things. Are we all going to have that capability, and or the applicant having that ability to actually point to and mark on the screen? Or do you know yet?
That is a good question, and that's one that we're still figuring out. Zoom does have the capability to allow other users or other panelists to take over control of whatever's on the screen. So the goal would be for applicants to be able to scroll through their plans and present their applications. And certainly if we can use any additional tools that Zoom has, like highlighting or redlining, that would be very helpful. So if we can find a good expedient way for applicants and the board to use it, then we will.
Okay, great, because I think that would be a tremendous upgrade from what we currently have, or yeah. Go 1 inch higher on your cursor, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. Yeah, that door. Okay, great, thank you.
All right.
Sorry. Go ahead and continue.
And the next announcement is there's a site visit scheduled for a project on the next agenda, this is the December 8th agenda. This is at the Solana Estate at 256 Eucalyptus Hill Drive. It's scheduled for 3 p.m. on Monday, December 6th. And due to, basically the configuration of the lot and the owner's request, we're going to carpool in a city van. So I'll be following up with details about where to meet and, timing and all that, but just know that that's coming up. And then I'll turn it over to Ms. Hernandez.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Just a real quick reminder that also on December 8th, we have another batch of items on the historic resources inventory to consider for designation as structure of merit or removal from the inventory. It's been up there for a few weeks. I've had a few applicants request for proposals, so I've been taking them down, and I had one applicant ask to be put on, which is really exciting because they want to be designated. I love that. So just a reminder, they're there for you to go through. The final list will be on the agenda posted on February 3rd.
Great, thank you. All right. Other announcements, best by applicants, etc. All right, let's go on to subcommittee reports. And we've got our list of subcommittees as well. Commissioner Drury.
Mr. Chair, yes, Commissioner Howes and I will be meeting with the Lot 3 Paseo City staff on December 3rd, I guess that's Friday, at 11 a.m. And we'll report the following at the following HLC meeting.
Great, thank you very much, both for
Thank you.
For doing that. And it could have been high noon, and then that would have been a little more.
Yeah, that's true. And
in the Paseo at high noon.
I'd like to thank Commissioner Lenvik for volunteering me too. That was a great blessing. Thank you.
That's what friends do.
That's what they.
All right. Thank you. Other subcommittee reports?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Uli.
the Objective Design Standards Committee met, had a very thorough discussion from the city's consultant on that project, kind of setting the stage for the next year and a half or so of work on that particular group. If people want to watch along or follow, staff can provide a link to the resource site that we all use to see various documents.
Great, thank you. And that's Opticos, correct? That's the consultant.
That is correct.
Yeah. All right. Other subcommittee reports. Commissioner Lenvik, did you want to chime in at all the State Street design subcommittee?
I don't think we've had a formal meeting since I reported last. Could be wrong, but there is, the committee is getting together for walking tours of the State Street area, reflecting on the history of development in Santa Barbara, in the downtown area. But I have nothing else to report on that. Thank you.
Okay, great. And part of that also was the discussion, the ongoing discussion of what will end up being the interim question that was going to be coming before HLC and everyone, but that's part of the discussion, right?
It was, I was under the impression that at the last meeting, there would be a discussion on that, but staff and chair decided that they wanted to put it off. So we have a special meeting, and I don't have my notes in front of me right now, but there is a special meeting that we're going to have to just discuss what recommendations we might make to City Council regarding how they might want to proceed with the State Street and Side Street improvements for the next who knows how many years. I don't know if that's going to be on the 20th or not. My calendar is, or my notes are a little confusing here, so. But that is the upcoming thing. If you have any ideas or suggestions, please pass them on to us so that we can add them to the list of other suggestions that will be coming from the commission. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And just as a note add on to that, because there was, I and others have requested the discussion of that coming before HLC as well. And that is the staff I know is staff for the State Street Design Committee, and as well as our staff is working on pulling that together to come before us as well formally to have that discussion so that we can add input as a formal HLC group to this whole discussion, because obviously there's the long term, but there's also the short term, which might end up being 5+ years pretty easily. So it's a long short term.
Excuse me. One of the things that Councilman Jordan pointed out is that I forget what in the 500 block, some restaurants or bars have gone to the extent of putting TVs outside, so you can see them from State Street as you're walking along. And so some of the the restaurants or bars have really taken advantage of the generosity of the City Council in allowing, as much to happen there as has happened, and it's going to have to be pulled back. So I'm trying to see what upcoming date is, but I don't find it in my notes here right now.
Okay, yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure that everyone is kind of knowing that it's still in the discussion and in the works, and HLC is going to be taking part in that discussion as things go on.
Yeah, I believe it's January 10th, but I'm not positive. There is a holiday on January 17th, a city holiday, so it may be the 10th. But I'll know more as I...
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Stay tuned. All right, we'll stay tuned. Okay, any other subcommittee reports? Just scanning the list, see if there's anything else okay, in that case, let's move on. We'll close item E and we'll move on to our one and only item. It has two parts, making a big item. All right, so it's 1631 Paterna Road. This is a new item, project design approval. The Tudor Revival residence, constructed in 1919, is listed on the Historic Resources Inventory as it was found eligible to be designated as a structure of merit in the Phase 1 Historic Structure Sites Report accepted by the Commission on February 17, 2021. Proposal for a 390 square foot first floor addition to the rear of the residence, convert 822 square feet of crawl space to habitable space in the basement, and 344 square feet of existing habitable space in the first floor to create a two-car garage with a new driveway. Replace existing non-conforming uncovered parking space in the front yard with landscaping. Replace existing 333 square foot two-story covered patio on the rear elevation with a new 437 square foot two-story covered patio. Replace existing outdoor stair and balcony with a new balcony and two new outdoor stairs. Install two new air conditioner condensers. Re-roof and alterations to landscaping in front and rear yard. Project will abate violations from in ZIR 2014 and 2010 by permitting an as-built sink and electrical outlet located at outdoor counter and removing an as-built storage shed, chicken coop, and playhouse located in an interior setback. All reports can be viewed at SantaBarbaraCA.gov/HLC. And so we have two parts to this. We have part A, which is requesting acceptance of the Phase 2 Historic Structure Sites Report prepared by Post Hazeltine. The report concluded that the proposed project meets the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation, providing the guidance under Standard 6 is implemented. And then part B, project design approval is requested. Project compatibility findings and minor alteration findings are required. So with that, let's see if the applicant team, both the Post Hazeltine team and the applicant design team are here. Oh, and Mr. Hamilton.
Can you hear me? This is Tim Hazeltine.
Yes, we can, Mr. Hazeltine.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure.
Yep. And I think for, in terms of sort of sequence, and assuming we have the design team and everyone on as well, in a minute here, we'll check. Just in terms of sequence and structure, I think we'll do what we often do, which is go through the historic structures report and the conclusions and have that discussion and then table the acceptance of that report until after we then review the project and discuss any more, and then we can kind of come back and conclude both parts of the item. So, Mr. Hamilton, did you have any additional comments or notes?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, I wanted to clarify that this project, you've not seen the plans before. This is the first hearing at which we've shown the plans, but you did review the historic report on February 17th of this year. So the project has been determined to be complete, or the application, I should say, has been determined to be complete. So you may take an action on it today if you wish. But just to clarify, there hasn't been a concept review yet. That's all I've got. And with that, yeah, if the applicant team could turn on their webcams, please, and we'll get started.
See. No, it's not letting me.
There's Mr. Henson.
Hello.
And Mr. Hazeltine, if you don't have a webcam, that's all right. As long as we can hear you,
Thanks.
hear us, then that's what we do.
Okay. Oh, and then we have Ms. Harlan.
The landscape architect.
Okay, great. And there's 15 minutes for this presentation, but we're basically, this is going to be more about the historic structures report. We might have some questions in regard to the design team as well, if they were related to the historic structures report. And then we'll basically table this, or have public comment for this, and then we'll table this or ask questions and then table it and then go on to the actual design, and then you'll have a presentation time to Mr. Henson and Ms. Harlan to go through the actual design and go through in more detail. So
Sure.
And then, so we'll start with 15 minutes. Typically, it doesn't take that long to go through the historic structures report, but if Mr. Hazeltine would like to summarize for us, go through the historic structures report, kind of flip through and summarize their findings and their reasoning for things, I think that would be probably the best way to kind of march through and then go on to questions, et cetera.
Thank you,
All right,
Chair
Ms.
Grumbine. Should I begin?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Pam and I, or Dr. Post and I, found the project supportable because most of the alterations are taking place on the rear of the building, which was extensively altered through a number of alterations that took place since the construction of the house in the late teens. If you look at figure 45 and 46 on page 41 of the report, you can see the existing rear elevation south and the proposed alterations.
Mr. Bolton, if you can go to
historic-
sorry, just 1 second. If you can go to, there we go, 41. Okay, thanks. Mr. Hazeltine, go ahead. Continue.
Thank you. Existing historic fenestration on the rear of the building on figure 45 is likely the two sort of French style doors with their side lights near the center of the elevation, and then the window, the sort of long on the east end of the elevation with the front gable element, the multi-light casement windows. The remainder of the fenestration and the porches and staircase are all post-construction alterations. Originally, the west end of the building at the basement level we believe was a one-car garage, which was the original covered parking for the building. And generally, we feel that the alterations to the rear, which has already been modified, as I noted, are acceptable. The front of this would not alter the street facade. And neither is this elevation visible from a public viewpoint. The arrangement of fenestration that's proposed in the terrace are largely compatible with the building's period revival style architecture. And we do not believe that the loss of historic fabric reaches the level of substantial and significant. And then I'll turn over to the street facade, which is the one most of us would be interested in, the north elevation. That's on page 40, figures 43 and 44. And so the substantial change, not substantial, the most significant change is the removal of a set of French doors at the west end of the elevation, and their replacement by garage bays and the extension of that elevation several feet to the west to accommodate a two-car garage. The proposed bay doors are referential to the house's period revival architecture, and Pam and I believe that the loss of one set of French doors on this elevation would not be a substantial impact. The question here was, in our minds, was how they could accomplish providing some covered parking for the property without adding on to, in a substantial way, the footprint of the building. And we believe that this solution is appropriate. When viewed from the street, the house will remain largely intact. The only other loss of the historic material, it's not even a loss, but it would be essentially the relocation, is a part of the retaining wall at the west end of the street frontage, and you can see that on figure 29, which is a photograph of the street elevation, or the elevation when viewed from the street. And so in that area, there is what you see from the street is a part of the retaining wall. So you see the capping stones for the retaining wall, and an amount of that would need to be removed in order to accommodate the new driveway. And the report incorporates the reuse of those stones on site in the landscaping or in the coping edge for the new driveway. So those stones would not be removed. they project above the existing street pavement about 6 or 7 inches or so, maybe 8 or 9 at the most. They're not excessively visible, I would say. And so we believe that after the implementation of this project, that the building would retain sufficient integrity of materials, design, and workmanship to convey its historic appearance, and that the surrounding streetscape would remain unimpaired, so that the alteration to the retaining wall is not so substantive that the streetscape would not be able to convey its historic appearance and its historic materials, which in this case are essentially made up of sandstone. On this house, it's a short retaining wall. On other houses on the street, there are more substantive visible sandstone features, which are shown in our document in the street frontage photos near the beginning of the report, which were described in detail in the phase 1 study. So in summary, we are supportive of the project, provided that the measures outlined in our report are implemented when the project is built out. So that concludes my presentation.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Hazeltine. All right, so now let's go to public comment on the historian's report. So any member of the public wishing to comment on the historian's report, the first part, part A of this project, please click on the green arrow hand icon and follow the instructions, and you'll have 2 minutes to speak to it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you are attending by webinar and would like to give oral public comment, please follow the instructions that are on screen. And while we wait for hands to raise, Ms. Turnowstad, did we receive any written correspondence on item A, historic report?
Mr. Hamilton and Commissioners, we did not receive any written correspondence for item A. Thanks.
All right, thank you. I don't see any hands raised in the audience at the moment. So Mr. Chair and Commissioners, back to you.
Great, thank you. All right, the commission for questions. We will be then putting this on hold and going to part B, but first let's get our questions from the historians or from the design team regarding this report.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Drury.
Yeah, so on that figure 29, I am very familiar with this property. So, yeah, it was the photograph, I believe. And in the photograph, on the extreme right of the photograph, there's an olive tree, and behind that is where the French door exists, the existing French door. Is that correct? Yeah,
Correct.
I just blew it up. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So that's what the one that will be scheduled for demolition and then replaced with a garage, 2-car garage. Is that correct?
I don't believe it's a complete demolition, but I believe
Okay,
Mr.
no,
Henson answered that.
yeah, we don't like that word either.
Yeah, no, neither do we actually. So my understanding is that elements will remain, but I believe Mr. Henson could expand on that if needed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then those 2 columns at the entrance, I think they house a mailbox perhaps. They will remain?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't note that. The existing staircase leading down from the street to the walkway to the front door will remain as it is today.
Okay.
Which in this photo is the upper left yellow piers, which are stone capped, right?
And then whatever stones are removed from the curbing on the street level will be, I mean, any dressed surface should be visible wherever they're used, correct?
Correct. Yeah, they won't be turned around or turned upside down. They'll likely be reused in the driveway itself in some fashion, so that they're visible and have a similar purpose in defining an edge of a landscape or hardscape feature.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
All right, and Mr. Henson, Commissioner Drury was asking a question about the garage. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on how that is going to play out.
Yes, the olive tree, and Jessica, you can correct me too, but I believe that olive tree will be relocated And the driveway will go down to the new proposed garage where that French door is, like pretty much through where that olive tree is. And then other new planting is proposed for the front yard. One other item, the stones that are removed on the right side to make room for the new driveway go down will be used to patch for there's an existing non-conforming concrete sloping tandem parking area in the front yard setback on the left side of this property. And it doesn't meet city requirements and it doesn't meet the owner's needs. They want this to be their forever house. And they want a way to get into they want a garage and they're with the city. Everybody wants a garage and they want to be able to get into the house at the same level as the garage. So anyway, the stones that are removed on the right side will be used on the left side of this elevation to fill in the existing non-conforming concrete parking area that's in the front yard setback.
All right, great, thank you for that explanation. Other questions from the commission? Questions about the report? All right, okay, in that case, let's table this.
I have a question.
Table this. Oh, Commissioner Lenvick.
Yeah, it's a curiosity question of the report writer. Your conclusion on page 47 is that a phase 2 historic structures report is recommended to evaluate a proposed project to remodel a house. Is this not a phase 2 report that we have in our hand?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was left over from the other draft of the report. So apologies, we will strike that out and we'll send a copy to staff so that that's not left in there.
Appreciate that, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for alerting us to that.
Otherwise, I'll do another report.
Just money.
Yeah, exactly. Any other questions from the commission on the historic structures report? All right, in that case, let's put this part on pause and we'll go into part B of this item, which is the applicant team, Mr. Henson and Ms. Harlan, doing a presentation for the design itself. So you'll have, this is for project design approval is requested. So you'll have 15 minutes here, restart the timer, to walk us through drawings and the project. Please.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Grombine. Tim did a good job of generally explaining what was happening. When you look at the site plan on the far right, there's an existing steep concrete driveway with room for 2 tandem parking spaces, and it doesn't meet the owner's needs or the city's needs. So what we're proposing is, as Tim said, convert the service wing on the far left side into a 2-car garage, which meets both people's needs, and it preserves the main front portion of the house, which is from the gable on the left and the gable on the right. We're not proposing any changes, no change to the ridge height. We will probably change the paint color to a little creamier white walls instead of light brown, and then go with brown on the windows. But other than that, the front will be the same. We're also proposing a hedge on the left side of the front elevation to separate the front elevation of the house to the proposed garage or the service area. So when you look at the house coming from the street, it'll look the same as what we had before. On the south side, you can see we're proposing to extend both gables to the south a bit, just to get a little bit more square footage on the main floor, since we're using what we had before on the left side to create the garage. You'll also see between the 2 gables, we're proposing an iron pergola. The owners wanted some shade, and we in Post Hazeltine actually found examples from Gertrude Jekyll that iron pergolas were pretty common in this area, and we felt that was less heavy and less permanent than like a wood pergola. We wanted something really transparent and that didn't impact the architecture, and that could easily be removed, something that was almost invisible. There's actually the description said there were 2 stairways, but we removed the stairway on the left side. We didn't feel like we needed it. So there's just 1 stairway on the right side from the upstairs balcony that goes down to the pool area and the garden in the back. And Jessica can talk more about that later. Move to the floor plan. Okay, so the upper image is the existing floor plan. That was pretty much the original, or what the original house was. 2 bedrooms in the middle, on the small side, and a Jack and Jill bathroom in the middle. And then a living room on the right side with the sunroom, and then a kitchen and dining room on the left. And the layout just doesn't work for the way people live now and for the owners. They want the living, dining, and kitchen to work together. Also, almost the entire first floor has been remodeled in the 70s. And so once you go in the house, you don't realize you're in a Tudor style house at all. So they want, if you can move to the lower level or lower image, we've created the living, dining, and kitchen that are connected to each other. And then the primary bedroom on the main floor, there's a really nice window that you haven't seen yet on the north side of where the primary bedroom is. It's Gothic point on top. And this lets them, again, be their forever house. It's everything they need on the main level. They also have 2 daughters and a mother-in-law that lives with them. And so we've expanded the lower level. And can you move to the next, please? So right now there are 2 very small dark bedrooms underneath a deep add-on pergola that you'll see images of before. And we're expanding to underneath the house and underneath where we're proposing the new pergola on the 2nd floor to create 3 nice guest bedrooms and then a lower level sitting room, library also. And it'll all be detailed to look Tudor, and you'll feel like you'll know you're in an English style house. The owners are living in London now, and they've been really keen on getting the right feel. Okay, next image, please. Roof plan. You can see the 2 extended gables and the proposed light iron pergola, which really will just be like scaffolding for vines that will grow on the pergola. The roof will be re-roofed, and it's asphalt shakes now, and we're proposing to re-roof it with asphalt shakes. Again, like a dark color, and nothing the TL series that's not too jagged, and we don't want to draw attention to it. Next image, please. So as Tim mentioned before, that you see the front elevation, and the most important part, the consensus was from the gable on the right to the gable on the left. You can see the Gothic window on the far left that we're keeping exactly as it is it's in the new master bedroom. And the right is on the right, you see above the French doors, it goes into it doesn't look original. It's just like, it's a weird 10-foot wide by 20-foot deep room. We don't know if it was, what kind of service room it was, but that was pretty much the only place a garage could be on this project. And again, it's being screened from the visible front part of the house with a hedge between the driveway and the house. Over on the right side, you can see the upper image is existing. There was a like double hung vinyl window in the lower level. We're replacing that with the wood casement window and other wood casement windows that match the other wood casement windows on the house. In the upper right, you can see the deck that was added in the 70s, and that's coming off, and we're replacing it with the deck that you can see better from the south elevation as we move on to the next image. Here's so south elevation is the biggest change. It mostly looks 70s, and the owners and we that wanted the indoor-outdoor function of a way to get out from the living room and kitchen, dining room. So, and a place to hang out that didn't look, that looked consistent with the architecture on the front side of the house. So we're proposing the terrace between the two gables, and then we're adding a gable on the left side of the terrace. It's an extension of the gable on the front side. It looked like the front of the house had attention to it and the back was just for service. And we wanted the back to have some appeal and have the same Tudor feel as the front side of the house. So that's why that gable's extending through there. We're also adding a box bay on the far right. The owners love them, and they wanted it somewhere in the house, and it works really well with the master bathroom. And it's behind an oak tree, so you won't really see it, but that was an owner request. Next image, please. I think we can move on to landscape plan.
All right. So overall, we're trying to respect both the history of the site and client's wishes, of course. So in general, we're keeping materials very classic, where there's currently a mix of red brick and flagstone and just kind of random paving that has trickled down through the decades. We are hoping to move towards a more simple and clean palette where we're using a reclaimed historic brick that's set on pads to kind of increase permeability. So we're not just creating sidewalk elements paired with gravel, so that we have that crushed classic English garden feel on the kind of tertiary or secondary pathways. There is an existing pool, and currently it's all done in bright red brick, and we're wanting to tone it down a little by using a reclaimed brick that's kind of weathered and gone through the ages. Overall, the garden itself is the plant palette is textured with a mix of kind of greens and grays and then muted colors. We have coming down the main stairway, coming from the street. We are proposing to keep the existing hedge if we can. If we need to replace it, we will, based on construction, to maintain that screening from the street and current aesthetic. The existing steps come down, and then we're creating a courtyard using olive trees, where we will replant and relocate the existing olive trees that need to be moved because of driveway construction, and create a entry courtyard where currently it's more of a sidewalk or just straight shot that comes down with no sense of arrival, no interest. In the center of that courtyard, we'd like to propose using a limestone vessel to create, again, an old world feel that either has water in it or we'd use as a planter. And then two paths that kind of transverse the space so we can access the driveway and then route around the side of the house. Going into down the slope to the backyard where the current concrete parking area is on the right side of the street, we're proposing to use a Santa Barbara sandstone wall to retain that slope and create a pathway that comes down and accesses the lower yard. Again, tying into the existing materiality of the site. There is currently an oak tree that Tom mentioned that kind of screens that new bay window. And we are creating a pathway that honors that and comes around the tree and accesses that main stairway down. You'll see on the lower bedrooms, which are labeled bedrooms 3 and 4, we have a series of more of a private garden area where currently it's all lawn, that then creates, for the mother-in-law and the daughters, they have a private space they can come out into with small little patios and more of a rose garden aesthetic, which again goes with the tutor or the English tutor history to this project. Off the lower patio, we do have a small lawn space. For some reason, the fill didn't come in, but it is labeled lawn. And that's to just flow out and have a little bit more access and, there we go. A little bit more access where you could put blankets out and have more entertaining space off the public patio. Going down, we keep the existing site walls for the most part. And those are the walls annotated in gray, and then rebuild a couple of the boulder walls that are on the site to expand a kitchen garden that's off the pool area. And then, so that's the second terrace. And the third terrace is the lower terrace where currently there's a chicken coop, a playhouse, a trampoline, a whole bunch of other stuff that our clients aren't interested in keeping. So those are proposed to be demoed. And we're creating kind of a lower alley of fruit trees that has a series of kind of destination points. One being, again, a limestone urn. So we're drawing in the same kind of history and same feature as the front, but in a smaller format to the lower space to kind of create a destination point on that lower terrace. And then another limestone urn that is at the end of that alley. That just is a nice kind of focal feature from the fire pit. Overall, the plant palette is low water use, very simple Mediterranean plantings that allude to a more British nature and go with the client's aesthetic and hopefully the homes as well. Yeah. That's what I've got.
Okay. All right. Does that conclude all of your presentations on the design side of things?
It does.
All right. Great. Thank you. All right. In that case, let's go to public comment on the design portion. Any member of the public wishing to comment on the design portion of this project, please click on the green arrow hand icon and follow the instructions, and you'll have 2 minutes to comment on it.
Thank you, Chair Grumbine. If you're attending by webinar and would like to give oral public comment, please follow the instructions on screen. And Ms. Tarnowska, did we receive any written correspondence for item B here?
Thank you, Commissioners and Mr. Hamilton. We did not receive any written correspondence for this item. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And I don't see any attendees raising their hand currently, so Commissioners, back to you.
All right, thank you. All right, to the commission for questions about the project.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Drury.
so as I read the plans for the backyard, it's terrace, correct? Like there's at least 2 terraces, one good size, 2 good sized ones, and the kitchen garden's on the same level as the patio for the mother-in-law and the 2 daughters. Is that correct? Or is that
No,
good
I
now?
think it's the pool. Isn't
That's the pool level.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
just as a follow-up to that question, because I had a similar question, was there a thought to put it up a level so that it's not 2 levels down from the kitchen, but on the 1 level down from the kitchen?
Yes, I proposed that to the client and they didn't want it. I proposed it kind of over to the left of the lawn, and they very distinctly did not want that super visible and in their entertaining space.
Okay, and they want the exercise.
Yeah, they don't mind.
Before dinner.
Down. But
Before
no,
dinner, all right.
those options, absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you. Other questions, the commission? Questions. I had a question regarding, can you go to the elevations? Don't know which page they are, but the proposed and existing back south elevation. Yeah, so looking at this and then looking at the elevation above that is existing, it looks like, and this is the question, are the openings, so there's 3 openings off of that major space, off of the living room, great room space, and there's 2, one on each side that has the 3 with their doors, and then one's a fixed light, and then the middle has just 2 as a pair. And then looking up above at the existing elevation at about that same spot. So are the openings the same size overall as those pair of doors with the pair of little skinny side lights that we're seeing there? Is that opening the same size as the one below?
I think they're a
That
little,
is the 3.
they're a little bit closer together to work in the room. And the three sashes on the left are the dining room. The 3 sashes on the right are the living room, and the 2 in the middle are like a circulation path. The front door is right across from that, so you could walk straight through to the terrace.
Dead center. Got it. And was there a consideration of reusing those, and if so, what was decided against it? Reusing those doors and side lights with skinny side in about the same location as you have the 3 panels of which 2 of which are doors and 1 of which is a fixed side light.
We didn't think, we can talk more to Tim, but we didn't think those were original. The narrow side lights, the detailing
Okay.
is not good. It doesn't.
Okay, it's not okay.
They're
They're
not.
good. And let's just can we cross check that, Tim or Mr. Hazeltine? Are those original? The little skinny side light one?
We weren't 100% sure. They're certainly older. They appeared probably, and unless Tom has more information than we did, we thought that they were likely, dated to pre-World War II. Whether they represented, which is likely some sort of alteration that took place to the house, because there were a number of changes to the back that we don't feel were documented by permits. So even looking through the permit record, they don't seem to have been detailed in those. So they are older. And generally if that something could be preserved, that's good. If we're not 100% sure if it's new or old. But as we noted in the report also, that the back has been so altered that it really doesn't reflect the original design. And especially considering that there was the garage was originally under the west end of at the basement level. And so that whole area got reworked and the porches got added. And so there have been substantive changes.
There was no terrace originally. So I mean, the whole balcony was added. So we think they were
Might have
probably
been a windows or something.
that they probably added the French doors when they added that balcony. Is what we think.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you for that answer. Other questions? All right, if there's no questions, why don't we go into discussion of the comments and discussion of the overall design and the historic nature of it, or nature of working with the historic nature of the house. Who wants to start? Commissioner Lenvik.
I will, yes. I have no problem at all with what they're proposing to do with the house. I think that they're approaching it sensitively and in an appropriate character to the original designs, and I have no problem with it. And I would like to comment, however, if we go back to the site plan, maybe the landscape site plan is just more graphic. I just have a couple of questions. And zooming on the driveway garage area there, I'm wondering about the fact that the width of the driveway is wider than the actual opening of the garage itself, and so you're running concrete or whatever right up against the building on the right side and up against the retaining wall on the left side. And while it's not probably our purview to worry about the landscaping, it appears to me there could be some softening of the structure at that area. and some concession to the fact that there's a big drop off on the left side where that retaining wall is and the steps are going down. And if you had more planting there at the top, it might be a more comfortable situation. And I don't know that you need that additional driveway width of whatever, 2 feet on each side to get into the garage. So it's a thought, and I just look at the driveway and its approach to the house, and it seems a little bit crude or mechanical or engineering as opposed to aesthetic. And I would think that you might want to look at that again to see if there's a way to make that area there as the driveway approaches the garage and the house a little more relaxed and artistic with landscaping and such. I also question
English country.
Yeah, exactly. I question, it'd be a narrow strip of paving on a planting on each side. You got roses or whatever in there, and it's quite beautiful. I also, you are going to be backing out from the garage all the way out to the street, and it's unfortunate, but that's what you have to do. I simply have a question. Did you ever give consideration to at least making a backup slot, to the right side there as you come towards the garage, so that you could back out of the garage and kind of swing a little bit the tail of your car into a semi backup area or space, and then drive out straight. Again, I think there is.
All right, so let's turn that into a bit of a question, because it seems like that was.
We're out of
Yeah,
questions. I'm into a comment. I'm giving it as all I got right now.
All right. Well, I'll turn it to a question if you won't, because this is our one and only item, so we have to drag this out for the next 4 hours.
Sure. Yeah. Good idea.
So to the applicant, was that the backup question of getting that a car to be able to not have to back up into the out of the driveway and into the road? Was there any consideration for that? And if so, what was the conclusion and why?
First of all, I love your idea of softening the edges of the driveway, bring it in, having some planting. It never looks good to have a driveway run right up to a house or to a wall. So I think we should look at adding some landscaping on the left side of the house. And maybe along the left side of the driveway if we can, if transportation's okay with it. Love softening that up. We did look at options briefly for a turnaround, but the owner said no, they don't want to be looking, they want to keep from the left side of the left gable to the right side of the right gable sacred. So when you come in the front entry, you don't even know there's parking there, because there wasn't originally parking in the front of the house at all. So there's very little traffic on the street, and the hedges will be low, and they said they'd rather just back up really slowly and keep the front of the house beautiful and keep the landscape symmetrical than to try to have a backup space, which they're also afraid people would try to park in. And they just don't want to be looking out the window of their room on the left and see a driveway or parked cars. So there was a discussion that's where it landed.
Okay, thank you.
It works real well until you get old and you can't turn your neck around to see where you're going.
Now cars beep if someone's coming.
Nobody's that old.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they are. Yeah, they
And
are.
that's why we have backup cameras now.
Backup cameras,
Yeah.
and think beep if a car's coming. They're relying on that.
Yeah.
They're taking form over function.
Yeah, I could care less. They're kind
All
of
right.
worth what you want to make of them.
And just for the record, Commissioner Lenvik, just so that we make sure it's clear, in terms of the landscaping and stuff, I think we do definitely have purview and as part of this project. So yeah, we don't want to give away too much too early. All right, other comments by the commission?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Drury.
Yes, so I'll go elevation by elevation. I think the north elevation is elegant and appropriate, and the south elevation, which in the existing looks like kind of a hybrid motel condo project, and the new iteration is equally elegant to the front. I really, this is pretty much a home run project in my opinion. And the other two elevations, which are much less, of course, I think they're elegantly designed as well. I would certainly approve this project. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Drury. Other
Mr. Chair.
comment? Vice Chair House.
I would agree with the comments made. I think that everything proposed is a substantial improvement to this house and reverses a lot of ill-advised alterations that were done in the past. And I agree with the suggestion to add landscaping along the sides of the driveway to the extent possible.
Great, thank you. Other comments by commissioners?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Bendick.
Yeah, I'm not sure the owners realize that the gable end that's adjacent to the driveway is a laundry utility room, which probably is not going to get a lot of great viewing, whether there's a turnaround there or not, but that's okay.
The wife is really.
Well, maybe they spend a lot of time in the laundry room.
And it's got a nice
Right.
seal through the kitchen too. Anyway. Understood.
Yeah. Okay, other comments by the commission? All right, well, it's sounding, I had similar thoughts regarding this. It seems to be an excellent solution, very much improving the historic resource and taking care of it in a sensitive way. And so it's seeming like there's only positive comments with the additional comments of the driveway being finessed and just so it's not so harsh with landscape. And but in all, I think those were generally speaking, very positive and very acceptable project. So it's here for PDA, and it needs to be findings need to be made. So why don't we can go ahead and do a motion on this if we would like, and then we can go back to the historic report and make a motion on that. But I'm not hearing anything that would make me think that it's not going to, that it's not supportable for PDA and that the historic report isn't supportable to be approved.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion for project design approval.
Second.
Second.
All right. Oh, almost, Commissioner Edmonds. You almost had it, but Commissioner Uli snuck in there.
I'll let Commissioner Edmonds have that second. I think she is on the same track as Mr. Mahan, so we're gonna lose her at the end of the year, I believe. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Uli.
All right. All right. Thank you. All right. So we got a Vice Chair House for the motion, seconded by Commissioner Edmonds. So we have the project compatibility findings and minor alterations to historic resource findings. But go ahead, Vice Chair House.
Okay, these are the minor alterations to historic resource findings. The exterior alterations are being made primarily for and will substantially advance restoration of the historic resource to its original appearance, and the alterations are consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards. And the project compatibility findings, the project is consistent with the design guidelines, and it is compatible with the architectural character of the city and the neighborhood, as it is an existing building, and the improvements bring the rear of the building into consistency with the more original front of the building. And the mass bulk, height, and scale are not an issue because it is essentially the same as exists. And I don't know if there are any adjacent landmarks or historic resources, but if there are, this is certainly appropriately sensitive. And the project does not impact public views of the ocean and mountains. and the use of open space and landscaping. The proposed landscaping plan looks to be of the highest quality, and I think it's a great improvement.
Except for the kitchen garden is down one level too far.
Uh-oh.
No, that's not in the motion. Okay, so with that, and the applicant, I'm sure, also heard that our comments in the driveway and the landscaping, but I don't think it needs to be part of the motion, as they'll be coming back with other details and fleshing things out. So, and they can roll that into things as they go. All right, so with that, we've got a motion and a second under discussion. Any discussion on this? All right, in that case, let's have a roll call vote.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Edmonds,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahan,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
All right,
All right, the motion carries. Thank you.
I'll make a
all right,
motion.
thank you.
I'll make a motion to accept the Phase 2 Historic Structures Report with a comment to delete the reference in the report of the report as submitted.
I'll second that.
All right. All right, Commissioner Mahan seconded. Commissioner Uli makes the motion. Under discussion. Oh, I'm sorry, let me finish this other item first. Commissioner Uli, you were too fast on the trigger there. So there is a 10-day appeal period for the prior motion to accept for project design approval of the project. So the two city council within 10 days. All right, back to part A of this in the historic structures sites report. I believe Commissioner Uli is making the motion, correct? For acceptance of the report with that one alteration of removing the reference of the report itself. And then Commissioner Mahan has made the second, correct?
Correct.
All right, and then under discussion, Commissioner Lundvik, I see you
Yes.
there.
Is the report writer still online? Hazelton,
Mr. Hazeltine?
is he still online? I have a question under the suggested approval. Provided the guidance under Standard 6 is implemented, and I've been going through his report, and I don't, I'd like to find Standard 6. And maybe I'm missing something here. And I'd like to know.
I believe then Standard 6 is listed as part of the standards for rehabilitation. There's 10 of them. And I think he's particularly referencing number 6.
But it's not in the report, is it? I mean, I've looked through this darn report and I can't see any of those. But it's not a big deal. And I would support the motion, even though it may be, confusing in its specificity. Thank you.
Is it, okay, and I don't know if we have Mr. Hazeltine or Dr. Post on it.
Dr. Post is not on. She left early for Thanksgiving.
Okay. Mr. Hazeltine, is there I'm trying to scan it too, and I was assuming that it was meaning the requirements of like.
Sorry, I lost my connection and I just got back on. If you look on page 46 of the report, it outlines standards. Pardon, page 46. Yeah, page 46. And under standard 6, it lists preservation brief 9, 10, and I think 22. That's for the repair, if repairs are necessary to historic fabric.
And Mr. Hazeltine, just to be clear, standard 6 is referencing the standard number 6 out of the rehabilitation list of standards, right?
Correct. And the ones below are briefs. So those are guidelines established by the National Park Service for treating historic building fabric.
Thank you.
So the brief
All right.
9, 10, and 22 are.
Very well.
Mr. Lenvik, are you good with that now?
I just gonna keep connected.
Commissioner Lenvik, were you either breaking up or muted?
I was muted. Yeah, I'm fine with it. I must confess that I've got the report up on my iPad, and my 46 does not reflect anything near what his 46 is, but I'm not going to belabor this, no.
Okay. All right. One man's 46 is another man's 44.
That's true.
Commissioners, I
All right.
page 48 of the report that you're seeing.
There you go. So,
Okay,
There we
sorry.
go. Sorry. One man's
Apologies.
46 and another man's 48. Okay.
But they are,
pick a random page number and it will be correct.
All right. So any other discussion about the motion on the floor for the report, acceptance of the report with the one change? All right. In that case, let's have a roll call vote.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Mayhem,
Commissioner Mahan, I think that you muted.
Commissioner, yes.
Just a moment, it's just almost done.
all right, thank you. Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
yes,
Commissioner Drury,
Yes?
Commissioner Edmonds,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And that action is not appealable. So, all right, well, thank you. Oh, do we need to make an announcement about that item 2 that was dropped from the from our agenda?
You gotta put
Mr.
you gotta put the legs out. It'll break the.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Ham?
yes, it would be good just to note that the project that was noticed for today's hearing at 517 Chapala was postponed indefinitely, and it will be renoticed for the next time it comes back. So just so you and the public are
All
aware.
right, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Hamilton. Okay, anything else before we adjourn the meeting at record time, 2:49? I don't know if I've ever seen that time.
Well,
All
everyone,
right,
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Happy
enjoy-
Thanksgiving.
Happy
All right.
Thanksgiving.
A nice project. All right, thank you.
Don't eat too much.
Thank you all.